Now we're going to cover the 10 most important steps to follow at railroad crossings. Follow along in your study guide and take note of any step that conflicts with your location's laws. First, always check the traffic around you. Look around. Gradually reduce your speed when you approach a crossing. If your direction of travel has more than one lane, always position yourself in the rightmost lane so that other traffic can pass or get around you. Put on your four-way flashes when you're about 100 feet from the crossing. This will alert other drivers so they won't panic stop or run into the back of your bus. Turn off heaters and fans so you can hear the sounds of any train. Leave the flashers on until you're completely across the tracks. At every crossing, bring the bus to a complete stop at least 15 feet and no more than 50 feet from the crossing. And remember, if you're on a street that has 2 or more lanes, make sure your bus is in the far right lane. Make sure there's enough room on the other side too. Look ahead so you can completely cross the tracks. There should be at least 15 feet of space between the rear of your bus and the track after you've crossed. You must come to a complete stop, whether you have passengers or not, even if the warning devices don't indicate an approaching train. After you stop, open the door, if required by company policy, and your side window. Look around, looking both ways at least 3 times and listen closely for any indication of an approaching train. A train's horn is the engineer communicating their presence. If there's no trains, close the door and cross in one continuous maneuver. Never, under any circumstance, stop on the tracks. Never cross unless you can see the empty track for at least 1,000 feet in both directions. If visibility is reduced, listen carefully to be sure no trains are coming. Never rely solely on warning lights and signals. Remember, you must stop, look, and listen. Keep your 4-way flashers on and open both the door and your side window. Turn off noisy equipment, such as fans, to ensure that you can hear clearly and make sure your passengers are quiet. Of course, if the warning devices are active, do not proceed through the crossing. Even if you don't see a train, don't ignore warning devices. Sometimes the warning lights can malfunction, but only railroad employees or law enforcement can give you permission to cross when the warning devices are active. Never go through, under, or around the traffic gates. If you must wait for a train to pass, never proceed until the entire train has cleared the crossing, not just the space in front of you. Be absolutely sure another train isn't approaching on an adjacent track. Again, make sure you can completely cross the tracks and leave at least 15 feet of space between your bus and the track after you've crossed. In other words, leave room, an important principle of Triple LC defensive driving. You may remember there was a terrible accident in Illinois when a school bus crossed a track and was stopped by about 7 cars waiting at a traffic light. The rear of the bus was still over the tracks when a train hit the bus and killed 7 children. Don't cross unless you know you'll have that 15 feet of space behind your vehicle. Once you're positive that the tracks are clear, put the bus into low gear and cross the tracks. Never shift gears until you're completely across. You could stall the engine and be stranded. If you come to a crossing where switching operations or stopped trains cause big delays, or if the warning devices don't appear to be working correctly, notify dispatch or your supervisor.
You talked about what to do if there are warning lights but no train. What if the warning lights aren't active but I see a train?
Good point. Sometimes trains park to load or unload cargo where you can see them. If this happens, notify dispatch immediately. Then, look for a fixed object close to the train, like a utility pole or box, and use it to establish whether the train is really moving or not. Like we said earlier, it's hard to tell the speed of an oncoming train. Take your time and be patient. If you're certain the train isn't moving and there are no active warning devices, then proceed with caution. If you have any ideas about alternate routes that might eliminate crossing tracks, or that would only involve tracks with flashing lights or gates, tell your supervisor. The best way to eliminate the dangers of crossing the tracks is not to cross them at all, and time is never as important as safety. Always keep in mind the Operation Lifesaver slogan for safety. Look, listen, and live.